One of the greatest indie rock albums of all time celebrates a milestone year with an exhaustive and exhausting special edition that may be for die-hard fans only. My review of Liz Phair's Girly Sound to Guyville is coming up next on Track by Track. Hey everybody, my name is Kyle and this is Track by Track, music reviews, news, and commentary. Thanks for tuning in today, and if this is your first time here, please be sure to take a second to subscribe so that you won't miss future reviews and more. It's been 25 years since the release of Liz Phair's lo-fi masterpiece, Exile in Guyville, an album almost as notorious as it is critically acclaimed. When it came out in 1993, Phair's provocative lyrics caught many listeners off guard. Her songs were bluntly sexual in ways that were almost unheard of from female artists. As a result, she was heralded as a bold new feminist voice in alternative music. Back in February, I included Exile in Guyville in my Great 28 video series. I don't want to rehash everything that I said in that video, so I'll link to it here in case you missed it. Suffice it to say, Liz Phair is one of my favorite artists, and I consider Guyville to be one of my desert island discs. And I'm far from alone in praising this album. Rolling Stone includes it in their list of the 500 greatest albums of all time, and they also ranked it at number 20 on their list of the best albums of the 1990s. Now, I'm not sure where it ranks on my personal all-time list, but I definitely call it a bona fide classic. So as Exile in Guyville reaches the quarter-century mark, it certainly seems appropriate, if not long overdue, that the album would receive a special edition release. Dubbed Girly Sound to Guyville, this 3-CD deluxe edition contains the original album remastered, plus 2 discs of bonus material from Liz Phair's legendary Girly Sound tapes. See, back before she got a record deal with Matador, Phair self-released a trio of independent albums on cassette under the name Girly Sound. In fact, more than half of the songs on Exile in Guyville have their genesis in those early tapes. Thus, it is entirely appropriate that this deluxe edition contains nearly all of the tracks from the Girly Sound cassettes, many of which are being commercially released for the first time ever. Now, if you're a long-time Liz Phair fan, chances are you've got about a quarter of these tracks in your collection already. 10 of the Girly Sound songs were included on a bonus disc with Phair's last studio album, 2010's Fun Style. Another 5 of the songs were included on the Juvenilia EP back in 1995. But other than on bootlegs, the rest of the music has been officially unavailable and highly sought after by collectors. That's what ostensibly makes this new release a goldmine for Liz Phair fans, and ultimately, that's the primary audience for this release. If you're a casual fan or a newcomer to her music, I probably wouldn't recommend this to you. Now that probably seems like a weird thing to say when just a minute ago I was talking about how Exile in Guyville was such an incredible album. If you agree with that sentiment, then Girly Sound to Guyville might be a good purchase for you. If you've heard any of the handful of Girly Sound songs that she's released in the past, you'll know exactly what to expect. This is 38 raw, demo-quality recordings consisting of little more than Liz Phair and her guitar. There's a bit of guitar and vocal overdubs throughout, but that's pretty much it. As a historical document, a record of Liz Phair's music before her landmark debut, this is a pretty great collection. It's fascinating to hear the evolution her songs have undergone from these early recordings to their eventual album releases. The music of Guyville obviously is what's being celebrated here, but it's worth noting that in addition to the songs that eventually found a home on that album, another 10 Girly Sound songs also evolved into familiar tracks on her subsequent albums. Polyester Bride, for example, was one of my favorite tracks on her third album, White Chocolate Space Egg. On Girly Sound to Guyville, you get a very early version of that song. So, as a fan, that kind of thing is very satisfying to hear. But I also have to say that while this release is an exhaustive collection of rarities, it's also an exhausting listening experience. As I mentioned, there's nothing more than Liz Phair's voice and her guitar here. There's no drums or percussion, no variety in instrumentation, and very little in the way of unique sounds or studio techniques. Take the song Flower. On Exile in Guyville, the track is anchored around a bizarre looped sound effect for its rhythm. The Girly Sound version of the song is remarkably similar to the Guyville version, save for the sound effect, which is absent. It's still a great song in its early form, but when you group it amongst another 30 plus songs, all with pretty much the same tone and texture, they all start to feel the same after a while. Another thing that must be said is that while the Girly Sound songs show that the bones of some great music existed very early on, there's no doubt that all the songs that eventually evolved into album tracks strongly benefited from the additional development work. In every instance, the album versions are much better than the Girly Sound versions. Now, that's to be expected, I think, but as I listened to the Girly Sound songs and appreciated them for their role in Liz Phair's development as an artist, I couldn't help but wish that she'd done more editing in those early years. Some of the songs are overly long, and they feel it. Others aren't long at all, but they still feel like they go on forever. The lack of variety in musical sound and texture doesn't help, and the whole thing begins to feel a bit monotonous after a while. Probably the best way to listen to the Girly Sound songs would be to break them down into their 3 individual collections rather than listening to them all at once. You can find the track lists for the original tapes listed on the discs themselves, which is a good transition to another complaint that I have about this set. There has been shockingly little effort put into the packaging for this special edition. The 3 discs come housed in a standard multi-disc jewel box, which also includes the booklet. There's nothing particularly visually interesting about any of the packaging, with the biggest missed opportunity being the lengthy booklet. At 50 pages, it's chock full of text with a long oral history of the album and 2 new essays by Ann Powers from NPR Music and by Liz Phair herself. Yet, in all of those pages, there are no photos whatsoever. We don't even get a reproduction of the original artwork from the cassette releases. Visually speaking, this set is a pretty big disappointment. For a closer look, be sure to check out my unboxing video. Speaking of visuals, it might also have been nice to have included a DVD featuring her early music videos or TV appearances. For the 15th anniversary edition 10 years ago, there was a nice documentary included on a DVD. That's been out of print for a while, so including it again with this release would have been welcomed by many of her fans. And ultimately, the fans is who releases like this are made for. If you love Exile in Guyville, it's easy for me to recommend Girly Sound to Guyville. You'll enjoy hearing the early versions of some of your favorite songs from that classic album, as well as some other surprises. And while I don't think you'll find yourself returning to the Girly Sound tracks with great frequency, I think you'll be happy to have them in your collection. Now, if you're new to Liz Phair, I'll steer you to the single-disc remastered edition of Exile in Guyville. On its own, it's a perfect album, and I wouldn't want new listeners to lose sight of that by being distracted by the Girly Sound songs. So, if I'm going to rate anything, I'd give Exile in Guyville by Liz Phair an X rating of 10 out of 10. That's a rating that I don't take lightly, and one that I believe is well deserved. As for the anniversary edition, I'll disregard the original album and I'll give Girly Sound to Guyville an X rating of 7 out of 10. The bonus discs offer a comprehensive collection of early music that fans will appreciate more for their historical value than for their entertainment value. But what are your thoughts on Liz Phair? Do you enjoy the Girly Sound songs, or do you think they maybe dull the shine of the original album a bit? And are you disappointed that this anniversary edition seemed to skimp on the packaging? Let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you're interested in adding this to your collection, or if you just want the new remastered version of the original album, I'll include links to those below as well. Once again, my name's Kyle, and this has been Track by Track. If you liked this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. Plus, be sure to check out some of these other videos below that I think you might also enjoy. And of course, be sure to subscribe, because true music fans always want new releases the day they come out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.